So my name's Robert Pekin. I'm with FoodCHI. Started FoodCHI with a bunch of Brisbane mums about 11 years ago. FoodCHI is basically an alternative food distribution facilitator between farmers and people in the city, mainly. We have three operations. One's a CSA box subscription operation. The second one is just a pure retail operation where people purchase weekly. And then the third part of our operation is a wholesale, which wholesales to mainly buyers groups and quite small, unique gourmet cafes and top-end restaurants.
Great. And could you maybe just give us an idea how you got into FoodCHI, what inspired you to?
Yeah, well, I was a dairy farmer many years ago, born and bred dairy farmer, and between when I left home and when I come back to run the farm and then eventually buy the farm, I saw this, the landscape was totally different in terms of the community engagement, the farmers that were around, the way farmers were treated, even the participation they had in their own cooperative had been really diminished by the time I'd come back as an adult to take over the farm. And then through the eventual demise of me losing my own farm and many other farmers around me, I started looking around for alternatives. And even though it was a tragic thing and very hurt deeply losing that farm, particularly because I had a lot of dreams to be carried out on that farm, I wanted to pursue what could I actually put on the ground that was a solution rather than staying angry with supermarkets and with the whole system. I wanted to see what was around that we could start to put on the ground that could provide a solution to farmers, and particularly around the connection that farmers, or the disconnect between farmers and city folk. And over time I realised that actually this was more than about being about food. It was actually about a whole bunch of things that were happening environmentally and socially, that food or using food as a nexus for connection could solve a whole bunch of other quite global serious issues. So I thought really deeply about how should a business in particular, so it was really about the business structure of when I saw the demutualisation of cooperatives and then the eventual corporatisation of cooperatives and CEOs marching away with a couple of $1 million and farmers going broke and committing suicide, I thought that it was actually the business structure that needed to be forefront in a new food distribution system. So we had three principles that we buried into our constitution. One was around no profits to be taken away by anyone else, a 2-to-1 wage ratio between the lowest and the highest paid person in the business, and the business can never be sold. And as you know, in the food world, many food businesses have been sold to the big players, and all of the philosophies and principles that those businesses stood for have disappeared, not to mention the economic livelihoods that those businesses created in the local community. So that's been the journey so far. We've still got a long way to go in terms of some new things that we've seen, particularly around impact investing and involving investors in this new economy, I suppose, new economy that actually cares for people and cares for the earth. Technology plays a huge part in the evolution of business and the evolution of how do we do food and the evolution of connecting people around really important things that we shouldn't, or that have been just taken for granted.
Yeah, could you maybe expand a bit on how FoodCHI currently uses technology, or if there's any further developments that you'd like to see maybe with the university work on?
Yeah, sure. Well, initially, 15 years ago when I lost the farm, or actually 17 years ago when I lost the farm, the CSAs were around, and the traditional CSA was a group of 30 or 40 people attached themselves to a farm and they got sold a whole bunch of stuff. But since the IT revolution has hit and internet has been around, and now there's so many shop fronts you can just download and use, it's really made that idea accessible to so many farmers and so many businesses. So that in itself is remarkable in terms of what it can do to transform the food system. But the really great thing that we're seeing now is with social media. We can actually, a farmer, or most farmers are not too IT savvy, but their daughters or their sons can walk out in the paddock and take a crop, or dad or mum sowing down the broccoli crop, and then put that up on the website, and with a tweet or whatever, and then a whole bunch of people can start to appreciate well, there's my broccoli, and it can have, they can have a discussion about how long that broccoli is going to take to grow, or what went into it, and then if a hailstorm hits or something bad hits, people can follow that story. So they're very much now, or technology really connects people with the journey of growing food, harvesting food, distributing food, and creates a belonging where farmers can't be disappearing at the rate they're disappearing. So 76 farmers per week disappear in Australia, like just walk away from the farm. So we can create a really great story where people own those farmers in a way, as in they become their farmers, or that food becomes their food. And farmers become, once again, recognised as key parts of the food system, rather than people sort of not knowing anything at all about where their food comes from. Well, the other side of it is, in the city side of things, people can share all sorts of stories about how to prepare food, particularly because we're down to, 2 or 3 grains, we're down to particularly one potato, on the mass market. And there's a huge plethora of varieties, not to mention types within those varieties of carrots and tomatoes and those sorts of things. And people get a bit confused. So people in the city now can connect via social media and technology to learn how to cook, how to use these things. And it's a big shift, because most people 10 years ago, even today, still go into a supermarket aisle with this list of what they're going to cook. And it's very mundane. It's very much like the life they lead. They're just in a rut where there's really no inspiration, there's an end, and that's when you die, and really everything else between then and there has got no purpose. Whereas now we're saying, well, actually, you can get a heap of stuff that's grown locally, grown seasonally, and you have to creatively express that in food to feed your kids. And so it just takes people out of this rut into being alive to what they can be, the possibilities in life for them and their family. And so that's why I'm saying food is it's much more than just about food. It's actually about bringing people into living life as they potentially can do, and seeing themselves as potential solutions, not only in the food system but also in any other system that's going on around them. Yeah.
Great.
All right.
That's fantastic. Thank you very much.
All right,
Thank
mate.
you.
Cheers.